There is in 73 seconds? Oh my. What fun is this?
There we are. Good evening, everyone. This is Pure Springs Live. I'm Pastor Lee, and hopefully we're praying that the humor gets better in here. Anyway, this morning, boy, does it sound like, case of habit or what. We're going back into Genesis 37. When we got done with Luke, I was like, okay, what do we want to do? And boy, I had a couple of conversations where folks really wanted to dig in further into that which we were talking about on Sunday morning. I don't know that this is going to be a permanent thing. The jury is still out. But one of the things that goes on is that if there's any place of the Bible that's got a lot of good, thick content, this is it. There's a lot to this, and it's kind of a page turner, if you will. And what I'm toying with the idea of doing, I really do want to cover 38. 38 is the one that Genesis 38 is the one that we skipped on Sunday morning because it was a little hairy to go through. And it's still going to be a little hairy, but I think it's got some really valuable stuff in there. But anyway, since we're in the mode of transition, we're going to start off in chapter 37. And this is the beginning of the story of Joseph again, and I think we'll have a good time with it. So, the only way we can have a good time is pray us in, right? I'll do it. Don't worry about it. He was looking at me like, "Are you asking me to pray?"
My attention span is not what it used to be.
You're allowed.
In the hearing.
You're allowed.
Yeah.
Would you pray with me? Father, I thank you for tonight, and I thank you for the wonderful word, and that is the understatement of this century, the wonderful word that we get to study. Father, I pray that your will is done in our discussion, that we speak very clearly and lovingly to each other, as we always do, and that, Lord, you would speak clearly and lovingly to us as well. Father, help us in understanding your truth, and we love you through it all. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, Bill. Hey, Bill. So, my engineer has put us in split screen already. I'm liking this guy. Okay. Hey, Brian's in from Florida. Brian's LaMontagne's in from Florida. Happy days.
All right.
Okay.
That's a heck of a view.
Yeah, really. He's really wired up. Never mind. I prayed for an increase in humor. Anyway, Jacob lived in the land of his father's sojournings in the land of Canaan. Now, these are the generations of Jacob. What's interesting is he goes into rather a significant segue after saying these are the generations of Jacob. Now, folks, I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm going to ask Chris and Karen to hold their fire till the end of this question. What do you know about Jacob? What do you know about Jacob?
Two names.
He had two names. They were Jacob and
Israel.
Very good.
Yeah.
They were Jacob and Israel. What else do you know about him? I should ask Greg to hold his fire too, but I pick on him, so he's got.
He was the
it
younger
right.
of the brothers.
Mm-hmm. Very good. He was the younger of the brothers, and his older brother was Esau.
Esau.
Okay. Now, we're going to see something very pertinent to all of that. What else was Jacob known for?
Deceit.
Yeah, very good. Deceit. You're a lot more talkative in person.
How did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, he was known as a deceiver. Okay, what did God have to do with a deceiver?
Deceiving.
They had to teach him not to lie, right? How do you teach kids not to lie? Go ahead, Greg.
No, I'm just thinking like you wrestled with them, so I'm like, oh yeah, you spanked them. You slapped them around a little bit.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said, man, I wish God would slap me around physically instead of doing what he's doing. Because then it'd be over, and then I wouldn't have to be sitting in the corner forever. You know, and then they were, it was kind of tongue-in-cheek thing, but I could see his point. It's really true. And what else about Jacob did you know? Well,
He had 12 sons.
he had 12 sons. Okay. Now that's a brute. All right. And I think he had 3 wives, wasn't it? 4. Okay. But who's counting? You know?
I'm sure
Okay.
Jacob was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two
You know.
wives.
Well,
were.
2 wives and then 2 other ladies were given
Concubines,
to,
maybe.
Yeah, concubines,
Yeah.
basically.
So Jacob also, throughout his life, if you're a deceiver, how do you treat other people?
Deceitfully.
I'm sorry?
Deceitfully.
Go ahead. Yeah, Chris? I'm
I'm
gonna let
not-
you lose
No,
it.
I'm scratching something.
Oh, okay.
You manipulate them.
I'm sorry?
You manipulate them.
You manipulate, right. You manipulate them. Why?
To get what you want.
Well, you do that, but why do you start with that? Well, basically, folks, you're treating other people like you're expecting they're going to treat you.
True that.
One of the things that you'll know about a lot of people, criminals, will treat everybody else as if they're a criminal. Why? Because it's their norm. It's their mentality. How much does it take to change a criminal's mentality? Let me say it better, how much does it take to change a sinner's mentality?
Quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
You see where I'm going with this? In other words, if it's your norm, you're treating other people like that, and God had to do a lot of breaking in Jacob to do that. Brian Lamontagne said he wrestled with God. Brenda McLaughlin said he bartered for the birthright. Very good. Mary Beth said, "Hi, everyone," with a smiley face. That wasn't part of the answer, huh? Anyway, Brenda McLaughlin said 12 tribes. Brian said, "Hi, Mary." Mary Beth said 12 sons. Sheesh, I had 3, still exhausted. Okay. And Brenda said distrustfully. No, she didn't mean that. Distrustfully is what she said. Okay. Anyway, Jacob lived in the land of his father's sojournings in the land of Canaan. Was that the promised land?
Yes.
Yes, it was. Verse 2, these are the generations of Jacob, Joseph being 17 years old. One of the things that's cool about the Bible is it is incredibly well written, right? Joseph being 17 years old, sounds like foreshadowing to me, was pasturing the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives, B and Z, right?
Yep.
And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. What was it about this 17-year-old? Let's be clear.
Is code
The tattletale.
Yeah, he was a tattletale, but what else? I'm sorry, what?
He was the favorite.
He was a favorite, but he was also...
Okay, Joseph, the whole story about Joseph's mom is that's the one that his dad really wanted to marry, and then he got cheated.
Yeah.
And so when, she wasn't able to have kids, and then finally she had a kid, and it was like, this is the golden boy.
Hmm.
Where these other guys were just part of the Ha-Ha sisters.
Well, that's it. Thanks, Chris. Rebecca was Jacob's favorite. Okay. Which is dumb. If you're going to have 4 wives and you got a favorite and everybody knows it, you're dumb. All right? It's not too smart to think. All right? Then when you have 11, or at that point you had 10 other sons, number 11 pops out and he's the favorite.
Yep.
That's dumb too. Okay? That is not too smart. When you have 11, it's almost like Joseph was set up. So let's continue. Not only was Joseph the 11th of 12, bless you, okay, he was also his father's favorite. Now watch this, okay? And Joseph brought a bad report of them to their father. Now Israel, verse 3, loved Joseph more than any other of his sons, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a robe of many colors. Pause right there. If you know this, don't go blurting it out yet. Okay? If your father makes you a robe of many colors and it's long sleeved, what does that mean? If you know anything about Jewish history. Folks, that was the sign of the privilege of the firstborn son. I have a question for you all. What were the privileges of the firstborn son?
The largest portion of the inheritance.
The largest portion of the inheritance, actually, you are the automatic executor of the will, right? Go ahead.
You also get the father's parental blessing.
You get the father's parental blessing. What else? It's all a position of honor.
Yes.
Okay. The firstborn son, there were 10 other sons that had just been passed over. Oh, you think Jacob needed a slap upside the head? Okay. Yes, sir.
And just a point of clarification, because everyone will hear this at some point. A lot of people claim that this was a dress and that Joseph was
Oh, for heaven's
transgender. They say the word actually means dress. That is a flat out lie.
It is.
means a robe, and it is worn for men. It was not a woman's garment.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. Because if you're ever asked, now you know. Okay. Brenda also said it meant land and wealth, and she's absolutely right. Okay. Verse 4, but when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peacefully to him. Brilliant. What you know what the modern day word for this family is?
Dysfunctional.
Dysfunctional. Absolutely. Now, one of the things that we have to understand is that whether the circumstances are there or not, God puts gifts in kids. You'll wonder why sometimes. Okay? This kid, at 17 years old, had a prophetic gift. Now Joseph had a dream, this is verse 5. And when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, hear this dream that I have dreamed, Behold, when we were binding sheaves in the field, and behold, my sheaf arose and stood upright, and behold, your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf. What is a sheaf? What's a sheaf there, Mike?
Can you rephrase that again?
You ever hear the hymn "Bringing in the Sheaves"?
Oh, sheep, it's something to do with wheat.
It certainly does have to do with wheat.
Yeah.
Our farm
It's the
before,
outside of the wheat.
our farm before, if they were baling hay, they would make the sheaves and stack them, or else they just put a pile of hay on a wagon in later years. But that's how they organized it, how they carried it. They would bind some together to something about that big and carry them on their shoulders or on a pack animal to keep the wheat organized and make it marketable.
Yeah, the
Absolutely.
wheat. And so what you do is you take a sickle and all the heads of the grain fall in the same direction so you can gather it up, and then you just have to beat that end of the grass to get the grains out of it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, it made it so that you
Like a
weren't just
technique.
banging on a random thing that's all over the place. There's just one end of the thing you have to pound on.
Was this prophetic? Yes, it was.
Yes.
In so many ways. In so many ways. For those of you who have read
Sifting and
ahead, go ahead.
Sifting and sorting.
Well, it's actually better than that. He said, "My sheaf arose and stood upright." What does that mean? Well, what it means is, it means authority. The other ones are bending over, which means subservience. They're worshiping that one, if you will. So, and not only that, it wasn't a rock. It wasn't sticks. It wasn't anything else, but it was wheat, which is another foreshadowing of that which was coming with their problems in Egypt. Okay, so in other words, the prophecy was pretty darned accurate. Let's go down to verse 8. His brother said to him, "Are you indeed to reign?" They got the idea. "Are you indeed to reign over us? Or are you indeed to rule over us?" So they hated even more. What is this, the third time they said that?
So they triple hated him.
Yeah, for his dreams and for his words. Was the dream a spiritual gift? Have you ever been jealous of somebody else's spiritual gift? This is for who? If you've ever been jealous of somebody else's spiritual gift, this is for you. Okay? He said, then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream." He's 17, he needs a slap upside the head. Okay, you arrogant little cuss, you. Okay?
Typical 17-year-old.
Thanks, Rama, I appreciate that.
I have one of those.
I'm not going to comment one way or the other, you know. Then he dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Behold, I have dreamed another dream. Behold, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me." This time, this got up in Jacob's head. It was a pain in his side. But when he told it to his father and to his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed, you arrogant little something or other?" Okay. "Shall I and your mother and your brothers indeed come down to bow ourselves to the ground before you?" Yeah. What is the lesson for us about this spiritual gift in a 17-year-old?
He had the whole family turning against him. It
He
wasn't
did.
just his brothers.
What should he have done?
Kept it to
Shut
himself.
up.
No. He couldn't have kept it to himself. He couldn't have kept it to himself. Now,
Been more humble about it.
yes, thank you for that. Now, folks, stay with me just for a minute. If you've got a spiritual gift, which you all do, but if you've got a spiritual gift that's kind of public, what do you do with it? You don't use it to lord it over somebody else. By the way, the more public gifts, that is the temptation. Is it any bigger? Is your spiritual gift any bigger if it's public than somebody else's? No.
He
No.
was only 17.
Yeah, well, he's only
So he
17.
really didn't have
Well,
the frontal
the-
lobe, you know what I'm saying,
The one thing,
developed.
yeah, you're absolutely,
Reasoning and all that.
you're absolutely right, Michael, but here's the thing. If you recognize that your kids have spiritual gifts, every kid needs to be taught humility. Every kid needs to be taught how to deal with their gift gently, not to use it to lord it over somebody else. Every kid. Sometimes all your efforts are not successful, but at least you gave it your best shot to help them be humble. It's a tough thing, believe me. Both my younger sons, have the more public gifts, and it God had to deal with them at times as He would, and they'll tell you this, as He would any young man, and any young woman for that matter. They had the more public gifts, and people were jealous and envious of them. Indigo can drum already. Holy cow, that's one of those more public gifts, right?
Mhm.
Gift to music.
It will be.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And his brothers, in verse 11, were jealous of him, but his father kept a saying in mind. By the way, where did Joseph get the arrogance? Brenda said to discuss the parent only get mature direction. Absolutely. Now, his brothers, verse 12, went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them. And he said to him, here I am. So he said to him, go now to see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring me word. So he sent them from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. Was that a wise thing to do? Well, we could Monday morning quarterback it and say that was dumb. But what was Jacob missing? Folks, Jacob was missing the idea and the knowledge of the atmosphere with his sons. He wasn't close enough to figure them out. He set Joseph into a trap.
He wasn't reading the room.
He was not reading the room, and part of a dysfunctional family is that. Right? Verse 15. And a man found him wandering in the fields, and the man asked him, what are you seeking? I am seeking my brothers. Please, he said, please tell me, please, where they are pasturing the flock. Verse 17, and the man said, they have gone away, for I heard them say, let us go to Dothan. So Joseph went out after his brothers and found them at Dothan. Verse 18, they saw him from afar, and before he came near to them, they conspired against him to kill him. They said to one another, here comes this dreamer. Verse 20, come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we will say that a fierce animal has devoured him, and we will see what will become of his dreams. Folks, what were they saying? What were they saying? Yeah, but what
They're
would
gonna
the
get rid of
murder
him.
of Joseph done to his dreams?
That would have ended them.
Exactly. What they were trying to do was not only, exercise their jealousy, but they were also trying to circumvent these dreams that were prophesied about them.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Also, it was vengeance on their father for putting Joseph in that
Yeah, it was
position.
also a veiled type of vengeance to Jacob. You're absolutely right. It got nasty. Folks, this is why the Bible's so cool, because this is nasty stuff, but it's real. Right? Okay, let's continue. But when Reuben heard it, he rescued him out of their hands, saying, let us not take his life. And Reuben said to them, verse 22, shed no blood, throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hand to restore him to his father. And then in verse 23, so when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his what?
Robe.
Why did they strip him of his robe?
Because they wanted it. They hated it. They were envious of it.
It symbolized the father's honor on him.
It symbolized the father's honor on him. Exactly.
And also took away the false first son aura.
The false first son aura. Absolutely. Absolutely. And verse 25, hey, all this deception has, made me hungry. Then they sat down to eat, and looking up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels bearing gum, balm, and myrrh on their way to carry it down to Egypt. Why were they so detailed about what these guys were carrying? They were so detailed about what these guys were carrying so that they could recall it later and give credence to the reality of it. The Bible never wastes anything. Verse 26. Then Judah said to his brothers, what profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Please take a look at Genesis 26 and tell me what it means. Guys, you gotta
We
think
wanna
of this
make
pretty
this
low.
count. Yeah, we wanna make this count for something. We really wanna, you know, like, there's power here, you know, we've got him in our control now.
Well,
He
that,
thinks
And
he,
how
that
can
we're
we-
gonna bow down to him. We've got him, we gotta make this count.
oh, Karen, I love what you said, but I'm thinking of something so much cheaper.
Oh, we can cash in on this.
Exactly. Why would we kill him? We wouldn't make any money out of the deal.
Right.
Why don't we sell them? We could make money out of that deal. Folks online, excuse the outside. They're cutting the grass out there. Okay. Wait a second. Y'all catch this, right? You're in a family, and they sell you, as opposed to kill you, because they could make money off of you.
That would make you feel
Who does
spe-
this? Right?
Wouldn't that make you feel special?
Yeah,
And
really.
valuable?
You know, hey, I was more valuable than the rest of my 11 brothers. Come on, you know. Yeah, we made some good money off of you. Right. Verse 27. Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and let not our hand be upon him, for he is our brother in our own flesh. Well, you got to justify it somehow, right? And his brothers listened to him. Then Midianite traders, this is verse 28, passed by, and they drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit, and sold him to the Ishmaelites for how much?
20 shekels.
20 shekels of silver. They took Joseph to Egypt. I think we want to remember 20 shekels. Go ahead.
Midianite and Ishmaelite, what's the difference? They've got two different terms there, so what's going on?
One's for Midian, and the other one's for the descendants of Ishmael. That's about as close as I know. Chris, can you help? Greg, can you help? You're a lot of help, you know that?
What was the question again?
Flip back to the last verse, 28.
Wouldn't a Midianite be from that land?
Well,
that Israel-
Midianites were from Midian.
No?
You know, the land of Midian.
Yeah.
Ishmaelites were descendants of Ishmael.
Yeah, so this was two different groups of traders passing by?
Yeah, probably.
Because they mentioned the
Geographically.
Israelites first, and Midian second, and then they ended up selling them to the Israelites.
So there was
the
a
highest
bid, so
bidder?
there was a bidding war.
Might have been.
Well, it's only a slave costs 15 to 30 shekels. So
Yeah,
20
so-
shekels is the value.
So he got, you know,
Yeah, slave. They sold it for the value of a slave.
Brenda said Judas sold out Christ for that amount. Actually, there was
30.
inflation around. And,
Yeah.
Jesus
But-
got sold for 30.
But it didn't run as fast as it does now.
Right.
Inflation.
Right.
Yeah, right. 1,700 years.
And again, the interesting thing, especially in 31, then they took Joseph's robe and slaughtered a goat and dipped the robe in the blood. They took his robe, took the symbol of the authority. That's kind of heavy duty. Verse 32, and they set the robe of many colors and brought it to their father and said, this we have found, please identify whether it is your son's robe or not. This has what to do with, this has something to do with 38. I think you're gonna like this. Brenda said, don't do numbers well, LOL. No, Brenda, you just didn't account for inflation. Okay. Please identify whether it is your son's robe or not. And he identified it, verse 33, and said, it is my son's robe. A fierce animal has devoured him. Joseph is without doubt torn to pieces. Then Jacob tore his garments and put sackcloth on his loins and mourned for his son many days. Watch the next verse and then we'll stop. All his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, no, I shall go down to Sheol to my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. What's him?
He's assuming that his son went to hell.
No, just this side. Abraham's bosom.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, folks, one of the things that it's kind of interesting to say. People say, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, right?
pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I thought Sheol was hell.
Not quite.
It's death.
Yeah. So the thing that I'm trying to get at, though, one of the things that I eventually want to get to is Reuben. Okay. Reuben was
He's the oldest son. He's the first son, the oldest,
Yeah,
yes.
he was.
okay, Reuben was the oldest son. Now, what was interesting
That's why
about
he stood
Reuben
up. Stuck up.
is that he went
He was
into
responsible.
one of his father's concubines. See where I'm going with this? If you read the last thing that Jacob said, the last blessing, which is just around, I think it's either 40, I think it's Genesis 49, you will find that Jacob goes through all his sons. And Reuben did a couple of good things. One is he kept Joseph from being killed. Got to give him that.
Right.
Okay. Secondly, he was the firstborn son. He was the one that was supposed to inherit the bigger blessing, like Greg said, right? He didn't receive either one of them because he had gone into his father's concubine. Adultery. He didn't get a blessing.
That was done.
Okay. And a dad's blessing at that point was stinking huge. All right. Down in verse 36, meanwhile the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. That was crazy, amazing. Who but God could have used such an ugly set of circumstances to work it out for his glory? Go ahead, Greg.
So apparently the Midianites and the Ishmaelites were the same group of people then.
Well, it almost looks like if Chris is right, there was a bidding war and the Midianites won.
Well, yeah, but in verse 28 it says that they sold Joseph for 20 shekels of silver to the Ishmaelites.
Oh, yeah, okay. Good call.
So it could be the Midianites were the brokers.
Either way. Or they were the
I mean,
buyers
they were the-
because the
they were the
Midianites
ones
had
who-
sold. Midianites sold them.
Well, there was often like a middleman when you dealt with these kind of transactions, and maybe the Midianites had that role.
I think it was opposite because the Ishmaelites would have been the dealers because the Midianites ended selling them to Potiphar.
I just want to say
That's what I mean, is the Midianites were the middleman.
for Karen, for hell, they said that it says here in my Bible that they weren't sure where you went in the afterlife, so they didn't know hell or anything.
Yeah, Sheol is more of a general term.
Yeah.
The place of the
Sheol
dead.
just meant like wherever the dead go.
Right.
Like the grave.
And it was separated by sexes. There was Sheol and Heol.
Oh, put your face in there.
Genesis 38. Okay. Now this is a tough part. This one's a little tricky. Genesis 38 verse 1 goes like this. It happened at that time that Judah went down from his brothers and turned aside to a certain Adulamite whose name was Hira. There Judah saw the daughter of a certain Canaanite whose name was Shua. Was he thinking about it? No, he was Shua. He took her and went into her, and she conceived and bore a son, and he called his name
What?
Right. Verse 4. She conceived again and bore a son, and she called his name Onan. Yet again she bore a son, and she called his name Shelah. Judah was in Chezib when she bore him. Now watch this. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord put him to death. He was wicked. Where did he learn it? Good point. Then Judah said to Onan, go into your brother's wife and perform the duty of a brother-in-law to her, and raise up offspring for your brother. That was part of the policy. But Onan knew that the offspring would not be his, so whenever he went into his brother's wife, he would waste the semen on the ground, so as not to give offspring to his brother. We all right here, whites? Okay. And what he did was wicked in the sight of the Lord, and he put him to death also. My goodness, there's a whole lot of death going on in this family. Then Judah said to Tamar, his daughter-in-law, remain a widow in your father's house till Shelah my son grows up, for he feared that he would die like his brothers. Why is that? Because his brothers were wicked.
They were wicked.
Yeah. So Tamar went and remained in her father's house. In the course of time, the wife of Judah, Shua's daughter, died. When Judah was comforted, he went up to Timnah to his sheep shearers, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. And when Tamar was told, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his sheep. Watch this. Verse 14. She took off her widow's garments and covered herself with a veil, disguising herself, as it were, wrapping herself up, and sat at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah, for she saw that Shelah was grown up, and she had not been given to him in marriage. In other words, what did Judah do?
Lied to her.
Not only lied to her, but he forgot all about her. This gets tougher. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Watch this. He turned to her at the roadside and said, come, let me come in to you, for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. She said, what will you give me that you will come in to me? She knew exactly what he was thinking. He answered, I will send you a young goat from the flock. And she said, if you give me a pledge until you send it. In other words, Charlie Brown, words are cheap. He said, what pledge shall I give you? She said, your signet and your cord and your staff that is in your hand. If you don't have your signet ring, what don't you have?
Bread.
You can't trade. My wife actually, she put in some really strange happy faces when I said Sheol and Heol. Engineer, you're not supposed to laugh at that. Anyway, okay. She said, what pledge shall I give you? Your signet and your cord and your staff that is in your hand. So he gave them to her, and went into her, and she conceived by him. Then she arose and went away, and taking off her veil, she put on the garments of her widowhood. She was still in mourning for her husband. When Judah sent the young...
After how many years?
Right, exactly. When Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Adullamite to take back the pledge from the woman's hands, he didn't find her. Wow.
There ain't no such woman.
Right. Do you think she knew exactly who she was dealing with?
Obviously.
Verse 21, and she asked the men of the place, where is the cult prostitute who is at Enaim at the roadside? And they said, no cult prostitute has been here. So he returned to Judah and said, I have not found her. Also the men of the place said, no cult prostitute has been here. Verse 23. And Judah replied, let her keep the things as her own, or we shall be laughed at. Well, dodo head. Yeah, you would have been. Okay? Look at that, look at Judah,
You
the
can't
son
trade.
of
You
Jacob,
can't buy or trade.
the son of Israel, and look what he did. Let her keep those things as her own, or we shall be laughed at. You see, I sent this young goat, and you did not find her. In other words, if we don't find her, we're going to keep the goat. Happy days. Verse 24. About 3 months later, Judah was told, Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has been immoral. Moreover, she is pregnant by immorality. And Judah said, bring her out and let her be burned. We're not too hypocritical about this, are we? And she was being brought out. She sent word to her father-in-law, by the man to whom these belong, I am pregnant. And she said, please identify whose these are, the signet and the cord and the staff. By the way, how did Jacob identify that it was Joseph who was killed?
Bloody coat.
His coat. How did the blessing happen to Jacob instead of Esau?
Deception.
You remember that?
It was a goat. It was the goat hair on his
Goat
arm.
It was a coat. In other words, it kind of carried through the family, right?
His eyesight, yeah.
Yeah, his eyesight was bad, so he could only feel and smell the child, his sons. You see, in other words, this is kind of poetic. I mean, it takes the Word of God to put this type of thing together. It's incredible how well intricately woven it is.
Hollywood
Ironic.
couldn't,
Yeah.
Hollywood couldn't write this
Yeah,
good. You know what I'm
Hollywood tries, but
saying? Yeah.
chintzy copy.
Don't make it
Yeah. By the man to whom these belong, I am pregnant. And she said, please identify whose these are, the signet and the cord and the staff. Then Judah identified them and said, she is more righteous than I. Well, duh. Since I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he did not know her again. You know something?
His memory came back.
Huh?
His memory came back.
So not only did his memory come back, but he knew when he had been outclassed.
Mm-hmm.
What did Jesus say about this? I believe he's right. I believe Tamar was very righteous. But what did Jesus do? This remind you of a verse that Jesus said. I'm going to give you a little hint. Wise as
Serpent.
and innocent as
Gentle
doves.
doves.
Wise as serpents and innocent as doves. Not only was Tamar wise, she knew exactly how to get to him, but she did not sin in doing it. I don't know if you could call that with Judah sin or not. I'm not sure. But nevertheless, she was pretty wise. The other thing happened? What happened with women who were widows and did not have sons?
The star.
They were in the poorhouse at least. There wasn't any welfare, there wasn't any social security, there wasn't anything. She is more righteous than I, that since I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he did not know her again. When the time of her labor came, there were twins, go figure, in her womb. And when she was
being a twin.
I'm sorry?
Jacob being a twin.
Yeah. And when she was in labor, one put out a hand, and the midwife took and tied a scarlet thread in his hand, saying, this one came out first. Brenda said under law she deserved to have a son, and she's absolutely right. Okay. But as he drew back his hand, behold, his brother came out, and she said, what a breach you have made for yourself. Therefore his name was called Perez. Afterward, his brother came out with a scarlet thread in his hand, and his name was called Zerah. Folks, one of the things that you will find, especially in this, is that what is up on the screen now?
30.
Huh?
30's up on the screen.
All right. I've got to put in 38 here. Or, I'm sorry, 39. Guys, we went like through 2 chapters and I wasn't ready for the third. One of the things that I want to tell you about that, though, is that it's really important. Go single on that, would you please? Because I've got to work a little bit. One of the things that I noticed about that is that there is a direct contrast between 38 and 39. And it's poetic. Okay? It is extremely poetic. I gotta do some fast looking. There we go. 39. Okay. You can bring me back if you like. Now, 38, and I wanted to do this on Sunday, and I just didn't feel comfortable in coming out with 38. Was I right, by the way? You see, you know, I
Too much
didn't really.
intrigue with,
I'm sorry, what?
Too much intrigue, too much,
Yeah, off-color stuff.
thank you.
Right. And so, but there is an incredible contrast between 38 and 39. Remember how I told you, one of the reasons why I wanted to have this church all about the Bible is because when I was in school, I learned about the absolute genius of it. The Bible is incredible, and I could never match it, so why not use it to tell God's people about God? It was him, right? So now, in Genesis 39, let's continue with the story of Joseph. Now, Joseph had
Can I
been
ask
brought...
a question first?
No, forget it. We don't do questions here.
I'm confused how it's not considered a sin which he perceived himself.
Not necessarily. One of the things, and Marie, good call. Good call out. Because you're right. I think it was a sin. However, the original sin was that Judah wasn't doing his job. He wasn't following the Lord. And so he was undercutting her existence by his sin. She was paying the price for his lack of discipline, shall we say. The other thing is, there is one thing I want to mention. Judah lost how many kids? He lost 3, didn't he? Because they were what?
Evil.
They were evil. Which is better, to follow the Lord or be sorry for how you raised your kids? Let's continue a little bit further.
There's another piece of that, Lee.
Go ahead.
That what Tamar did was to take off her mourning clothes and put a veil over her face. Now, that in and of itself wouldn't be bad. It's what was done with that in the mind of
Judah.
Judah, yes. He assumed her to be a prostitute. She did not say she was. And
She
But
was
the veil
a
over
she
her
lied.
face, the veil over her face.
no,
kind
but
of-
the thing of it is that it's almost like Jesus before Pilate, where he says, "Are you the king of the Jews?" He says, "Well, you say I am." And it's like, "Are you a prostitute?" You say I am. That sort of a thing. But still, she was an opportunist. True that.
Well, she was an opportunist, but the other thing is that she had been already a victim of his own sin.
Yes.
And so things were bad anyway. Basically, what the woman did is she made the best out of a bad situation.
Mhm.
That was what I was trying to say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, and the original sin in all of this was Judas. I mean, not only did he not support her, if his sons were wicked, what was he doing to help them not be wicked?
Yeah.
You know? And so, I don't know, the fathers are on the table, and I know the mothers have experienced this too, but I can only say, when you see your son do something wrong, it falls on you. We can go through everything, it still falls on you. That's the way God created it. You feel that way. You know, are you forgiven for it? Yes. Could it have been your fault? Yes, it could have been. But you're still forgiven for it. You don't have to deal under the guilt thereof.
Mhm.
It's tough. It's tough. You know, and there are a few folks that we have few folks that I know where their kids are incarcerated. Okay, it's a never-ending cycle that they have to go through, because I think, while it is not like being in jail, you never don't not forget it. There's always a what if could I have done something differently. Now, and I'm wondering if Judah was thinking that way. The other thing, though, is I have a question for you. What lineage was Jesus?
Jesse,
And he was called the Lion of
Judah.
I've had that in my head. And I'm not making the connection. Lion of Judah.
Jesus was the Lion of Judah.
So that would be the fierceness?
Well, no, he redeemed that name.
Okay. Lion redeems. Okay.
No, it's not the Lion of Judah, the expression. I'm talking about the holiness of one that came after Judah.
But
He
after,
was-
I'm not getting the picture. Somehow
Like
I'm
for him,
missing
for
something.
Jesus to be associated with Judah, he's redeeming the name of Judah. The lion part is just,
Oh,
Just
okay.
an
you know,
expression.
in
Oh,
the
okay.
same, but it's not associated.
it sends the devil through that.
Okay, all right.
The other thing is that Reuben's sin disqualified himself from being the one from which Jesus sprang. So when we read the Christmas story, we hear the root from the stump of Jesse, where Reuben is a sandwich of corned beef and sauerkraut with Russian dressing on rye bread. That's the name that we have for that. Instead,
Don't
because of
laugh,
the-
Marie, it encourages him.
I can't help it.
I
Sorry.
don't, sorry.
But the thing of it is that his name was to be that lineage before his sin, but basically made himself into something mundane. And I guess we do that, but in Christ, there's an easier path to forgiveness, I guess.
Well, not only that, one of the things that some people get to, and one of the things that stops them from becoming a Christian is their lineage. Like, for instance, Benny Hinn. Okay? I can't remember the name of his son. Benny Hinn is a shyster.
He is.
Okay? He's a charlatan, he's a shyster. His nephew, however, and I can't remember his name off the top, but his last name is Hinn as well, is one of the coolest preachers, straight-laced and down the line as you can get.
And has done interviews coming out and talking about all the shenanigans that Benny has done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wonderful guy. Wonderful guy. Doesn't have a good relationship with his uncle. Okay?
No.
But what's cool about him is I think he's overcome that. He's overcome his lineage. He's overcome the inheritance that he got from his uncle. Oh, you see where I'm going here. In other words, is there a redeeming of the name?
Can be.
Is there redemption from a dysfunctional family?
Yes.
Is there a redemption from the dysfunctional family?
Yes.
The other thing is that you are talking about Jacob's sons, the 12 tribes of Israel. Of God, is there any more blessing that can happen than did the 12 tribes of Israel? These guys were not straight-laced, and their halos were pretty darn tarnished.
Didn't even fit straight.
Look at what God did. And Brenda said Perez became head of Judah. And she's also said Jesus came from that line. We're gonna stop here. It might be a little early. But folks, one of the things that this is a story of, even in Genesis, is redemption. Now that we can see what God did throughout history, redemption, anybody? So is there truly any barrier? One of the things that comes out every once in a while, and I get to talking to somebody. Somebody will say, well, my father was this, or I'm using the excuse for sinning because my parents always did this. And I'll never come to Jesus because I don't have the proclivity for it, I don't have the ability for it, I don't have the bent to it because my parents did this. Well, that never stopped him before. And it sure didn't stop him in Genesis, right? So as we go to prayer, let him do the work. You know, if there's something going on inside of you about something, you know, in your lineage or whatever, let him do the work. Right? Let's pray. Father, I pray that we would do indeed that we would let you do the work. That your name would be glorified, Jesus. We pray that your will would be done, and that our barriers would be down before you. Go with us tonight, Lord, as we lay our heads down on the pillow tonight. Let our last thoughts be of you. Thank you, Lord. In your name, amen. Folks online, thank you again for being here. If you have any questions, give us a yell. We'd love to hear it. And God bless you. Have a great night. Good night.